Okay, so we're recording. Welcome to the podcast. Today I am joined by a big hero in my personal health journey and personal friend, Rae Powys. Rae is a naturopath and she has a clinic here in Denmark, and she's also advising naturopath to the healthy chef, Teresa Cutter. So yay, thanks for being on the podcast, Rae.
Oh, thanks so much, Helen. Thanks for inviting me.
It's a pleasure and an honour to have you here. Now, I'm so interested, obviously you know lots about me, but I don't know anything about you, and I'm so interested to find out your story and you know, how you got to your healthy life now. So if we could start off, you know, in the past, like how did your life look before you came to your paleo-ish way of eating?
Yeah, sure. Well, I think probably the most interesting, I guess, standout time is where I interestingly thought that I was at my healthiest. So that was at my between 18 and 20 when I was a student studying science, studying sport, studying health and nutrition. And at the time I was a triathlete as well. So, you know, I guess I could be seen as a fairly healthy person. I assumed I was quite healthy. I was really fit. Studying sport, studying health, like I should have known a lot. But this is, I guess, mid-90s. And so back there it was all about fat-free. You know, that was sort of the time that power bars evolved. It was, as long as it was fat-free, it was fine, and that was energy. So, so life back then, I was studying, I was training, and I was working in a sports shop, and also at a health centre with a lot of other like-minded athletes and students, and so we thought we were pretty healthy. And I look at what we ate now, and it was pretty atrocious, you know, and we used to go on big long rides, and then we'd stop at a bakery and get a huge ice bun, and, you know, and that was, you could eat as much as you like because it was fat-free. And that was sort of, you know, how we were living, and it never occurred to us that that was not a healthy way to live or be. And, you know, I think back now we would be working on the shop floor at this sports shop, and our pockets were filled with lollies, you know, because we were just, you know, fueled with, and fat-free, so we were fueling ourselves with energy, and we had, you know, a training session to do, which we would constantly have to feed ourselves on sugar to get through it. So then that's, you know, I was educated, and not just educated, not just an educated person, but being educated in health and nutrition and science. So, and that is what, at the time, the science was telling us, you know, was really, you just avoid fat, eat by the food pyramid, lots and lots of grains, lots and lots of carbs, and that was how I ate. And, you know, I was brought up, you know, I guess I'd say a healthy household, in terms of we were all pretty fit. Mum made all our meals at home, but I think sugar was a big thing at home, and never sort of packaged foods or lollies or soft drinks, but people used to sort of comment, they'd come to our house for dinner. They loved coming to the Collis household because there was never just one dessert, there was always two. My mum was a big dessert baker, and there was always cupcakes, there was always biscuits. So we sort of just, you know, you were constantly hungry, and we just constantly ate, but that was okay because we were active. So, you know, we had lots of sugar. So I guess, you know, I went through my years studying sports science, and then came out, and then really still had a good interest in nutrition. So I went on and studied nutrition at another university, looking at doing dietetics. But yeah, I guess at that point, the idea of becoming a dietitian, where I knew, based on the curriculum then, that, you know, I was going to be telling diabetics in hospital that their food plan to get well was diabetic ice cream and diabetic jelly, and and just that's where it sort of didn't sit so well. So yes, it was after that. I'm trying to think at the point where I discovered natural medicine. And my mum was actually diagnosed with cancer. So that was probably a bit of a turning point, because she, as part of her sort of recovery plan, she went through a group which offered this little course where every week you'd have someone different come and talk to them. And so there was sort of meditation and mindfulness and exercise and nutrition. And they had a integrative doctor come and talk. He was a doctor and a naturopath. And so, a naturopath, what's the naturopath do?
Yeah,
so that's where I started. And there was a homeopath. I'd never heard of homeopathy. So that was all very new. And I guess I then started looking into herbal medicine, reading more books about herbal medicine, and that sort of led me to start studying naturopathy. So it was quite a sort of a long-winded journey. And I guess still at that stage, I was studying naturopathy, and, I can't say I was healthy. I thought I was healthy, but for what I know now, the paleo was never, that was quite a while ago. It's about 15 years ago. So that was never really part of our learning. We learned about quinoa, and we learned about brown rice and white rice, and then we just learned about vitamins and nutrition, and vitamins and nutritional supplements and herbal medicine. So to sort of then get onto more paleo or primal eating, I probably came across that more after a few years of studying and going to a seminar over East where Lorraine Cordain was speaking. And so that was a real, him talking about this sort of primal or paleo style of eating and its relationship to disease. And I just remember feeling like you can get so bombarded with all of this information and all these different diets and all the different foods you should eat and shouldn't eat, and then you should eat it, and then you find out you shouldn't eat it. And this just it brought it right back to the basics of, it was that real moment of that's what health is all about. Getting back to basic nutrition, it makes so much sense. Really sort of took us away from just getting bogged down on food labels and what the panel says and, all these numbers, to just, I guess it's that whole analogy of pulling ourselves back from that centre of the supermarket to the outside. And, we don't look for a food panel on, meat and bananas and, but we know they're healthy. So, so that's, there was never a real moment of eating, I guess, more in a paleo or primal way. But that's really more the direction I've taken now, and I guess I'm sort of under that paleo umbrella, so to speak, without being strictly paleo.
Yeah, nice. I like that. So your journey to a paleo-ish way of living, it was an evolution. Can you remember how you felt as in your sugar-burning athlete days? I mean, you say you were active. Did you feel, were you just one of those lucky people that managed to get away with that way of living, or did you have, issues like when you look back on with your paleo hindsight goggles on, you can attribute, you think, oh well, that acne issue I had as a teenager, I can see now that was related to gut problems, or is there anything like that, or were you just one of those lucky kids that managed to burn off all that sugar?
Yeah, I guess as a kid, I think there was a lot of sugar, but there was a lot of good whole foods. It was just, we didn't have any packaged foods at home. So I guess combined with the sugar was good real food at home. But then when I was training and just eating sugar, I think you think you're getting away with it because you're fine for half an hour or 45 minutes and you think you've got energy, and I guess you learn to be prepared to just have more sugar on hand, and then you just top up again and so you feel you're fine. And I guess I felt I could get through training sessions, but it's it's quite amazing. It was interesting because I guess a few years later, when I was at a pool one day, and I saw this guy sitting on the end of the pool just about to jump in for a swim with a Snickers bar, down in his Snickers bar, and I've got some swimming to get through here. So, and I just thought it's probably not unlike, I didn't sit on the end of the pool with a Snickers bar, but on our way to any training session, it was just load up with sugar and just give yourself that sort of false hyper energy to sort of just go as hard and fast as you can, and then you're knackered at the end, and that's fine because you just refueled again. So but with no nutrition, so it's I guess in terms of getting away with it, you sort of you did. I look back now and I could have done things so much better, I guess, and then I probably look at then what happened to my health over the following 10 years, and maybe that was a contributing factor to then, I was diagnosed with Hashimoto's, so an autoimmune thyroid condition, probably about 10 years after that. And I do believe that's, there's a pathway to that. And any autoimmune disease, we've got to have certain elements of the gut, and we've got to have leaky gut. We've got to have, if there's a genetic tendency, which there certainly was, and then certain stresses. I just fallen pregnant, and that was probably, enough to sort of set that off.
Now, you've brought up one of my favourite topics, leaky gut. I remember when I first read about that, I was like, oh my God, that sounds so horrendous. There's no way I'll have that. And then I obviously did have leaky gut. Can you tell us a little bit, for people who've heard it, but they don't really understand what it is, can you just give us just a quick rundown of what leaky gut is?
Sure. One of the ways I do describe leaky gut is that if we imagine that your intestines are like, some lovely pantyhose, your sheer pantyhose. And so you've got sort of fine nutrients that should pass through. So in the small intestine is where we absorb all our nutrients. And so we do need those smaller broken down particles to actually transverse across that sort of membrane of the lining of the gut. And there are a number of factors that will actually cause this membrane to become permeable. So what happens is those tight junctions don't become so tight. So those sheer pantyhose start to look like fishnet stockings. And then you get
what a great way to describe it. That is the best description I've heard to date. That's great.
Oh, good. Well, I think because we can associate the two and think, okay. So larger particles can then go across the membrane, which can be larger food particles that the immune system will recognise as potentially foreign, and that's where it sets up things like food sensitivities. So it's really just about we either call it leaky gut or intestinal permeability. So we sort of think about this membrane allowing bigger particles across the membrane that it shouldn't. And in that process, it drives further leaky gut. And Alessio Fasano, who's sort of seen as the godfather of gluten, he said in one of his talks that I went to a few years ago is that you cannot have an autoimmune condition unless you have leaky gut or intestinal permeability. So that is one of the sort of first, gateways through to an autoimmune condition. And as we know, there's lots of other factors. Stress is a big factor. Again, genetic tendency, but we know a lot more about this intestinal permeability, and it's something we can talk about, and within the broader sort of medical fraternity, it is something which is not seen as this sort of strange concept.
Yeah, so becoming more and more mainstream, definitely. So what would you say that the main contributors to leaky gut are, Rae?
Okay, so again, going back to Alessio Fasano, he was the gastroenterologist, and I think if you are interested, even if you're listeners are interested in looking into this sort of leaky gut and autoimmunity, you can probably find plenty of YouTube videos with Alessio Fasano talking about this. He speaks very well and explains it well. But he says it's impossible to have leaky gut without gluten. So gluten, for these, I guess, to go into a little bit more to explain it, what gluten does is causes the opening of these gut junctions through something called zonulin. So it just initiates the opening. So gluten is one of the causes of leaky gut. We know stress, other chemicals, medications, antibiotics, by different pathways, and some of that might be sort of inducing SIBO, which is another significant cause of leaky gut. So different food choices. So that's probably, there's quite a few causes of leaky gut, but certainly the different diets, high sugar diets, oral contraceptive pills, something that's taken all the time, other medications. But the main ones I would say would be SIBO and gluten.
And really, all of those things that you've just rattled off pretty much affect everybody in our generation. I think, yes, antibiotics, yes, contraceptive pill, yes, stress. It's like, so how many people does leaky gut actually affect, Rae? Is it really common, or is it just one of those horrible things that's just limited to a few unlucky people like me and you?
Well, I think, look, it's like as Dr. Fasano has said, anyone who eats gluten has a leaky gut. So then we think, well, okay, that's a majority of the population. But then the degree at which that intestinal permeability actually affects our health, I think is quite varied. And I think you can look at some people that can have the presence of some sort of pathogen or, bacteria that they can go on they can have a virus and actually travel on quite healthy, not show any symptoms. And there are those that do. So there's probably all that underlying unknown of what else is it that means one person can have, carry this same virus and not have any symptoms or health issues, and another person does. And I think the same for leaky gut. I think that people can have leaky gut, and then do they have other issues as well? Do they have an autoimmune condition? Do they have, a virus, or where is their health at? And that will then determine how much the leaky gut affects them. I kind of like to explain it as a bit of a stacking effect, and then you've got this high jump setup that most people can sort of imagine, and that knocking off that bar is really that point of where you sort of tip over and have these some sort of health condition or have these symptoms. And leaky gut can be one of those sort of blocks that sort of you climb up before you hit that bar. I mean, there can be stress, and then there can be a virus, and there can be food sensitivities, toxic exposure, leaky gut, and then you knock off that bar. So for some other people who live a really healthy lifestyle and don't have that toxic exposure and haven't been exposed to certain viruses, have no stress in their life, but have just a little bit of intestinal permeability, it may not be such a problem for them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so it really is dependent on the individual and their circumstances. But could you give us some examples of people that you see in your clinic, Rae, when they do present with leaky gut? What are some of the signs that they might see themselves that could be indicators that they have intestinal permeability?
Sure. Well, one of the things I like to, particularly with skin conditions, and I do explain to clients that really the skin is their external gut. And so when we have that, irritated skin conditions, whether we're looking at a allergic skin condition like eczema or dermatitis, or whether we're looking at acne or some other skin condition, I do go back to the gut. And so we have a look at, if that leaky gut can be a factor there. The biggest thing we will see is food sensitivities. So most people, if they do come in and have already started usually eliminating certain foods from their diet and finding not really tolerating gluten well, or feel really bloated every time I have a coffee, or so they're starting to knock off certain foods and taking more and more foods out of their diet because they're not feeling well. Then there may be people that have no digestive symptoms at all but do present with autoimmune conditions, a diagnosed autoimmune condition. So in that case, I do automatically start to investigate leaky gut, even if they say they don't necessarily feel any digestive symptoms or discomfort. So yeah, that would be the ones where I would start looking more towards this, the leaky gut and what we need to do there.
So if people wanted to really protect their gut and keep away from leaky gut, what are the main things they could do to promote the health of their gut?
That's a good question. So, look, I would say gluten would be the first thing I would take out. And I think that one of the really good things when you do take gluten out of someone's diet, and even if it's just, and it's, you know, some people say, well, what's the point if, you know, I'm not celiac, you know, it's what's the point? And I think for a lot of people, if you just say, look, for the next 3 to 4 weeks, completely eliminate gluten from your diet. If that's all you do, just eliminate gluten. And you don't need to tell them to include other foods, but they will, you know, because all of a sudden, if you can't have bread for breakfast and if you can't have, you know, Wheat Bix or regular cereals for breakfast, well, what are you going to have, you know? And all of a sudden, their alternatives, it might be, say, scrambled eggs, throw in some spinach, or, you know, they might have a smoothie, or they might be having fruit salad. They do add more colour. So, you know, if you can't have cheese and crackers, what are you going to have? Well, they might have, oh, well, I'll have some avocado and I'll have some carrot, or, you know, they will, by default, actually increase the range of foods that they have. And I think taking gluten out does just, you know, it eliminates that easy food that we just get used to eating. So I think that it's a great way. Most people will come back after the month and say, oh, it's great, I found this new thing, you know, found this great recipe. They'll go and look for alternatives because they need to find things. So they come back and they've discovered new foods. And I really haven't had anyone, no, I absolutely haven't had anyone who I've asked to go gluten-free and has come back and felt worse. So, you know, the degree to which that will improve someone's health condition is certainly going to vary. But I think taking gluten out of the diet is the first thing that we need to do if we need to correct that leaky gut. So I guess we need to look at, what do we take out? Certainly if there's an excess in, you know, tea and coffee, inflammatory foods, you know, even looking at some sort of other grains, some people might be reacting to quinoa. So we find foods that they're reacting to. And I like to not only just, you know, look at what we take out, it's really important to look at what we can put in. So put in a lot of soothing foods and all the things that, you know, really, I'd say you're the expert on there, Helen, at all the bone broths and all of the really nourishing foods for the gut. Yeah, so it's not just about taking the things out, but putting things in. So I try to do that always with food, but sometimes, you know, and I guess as a naturopath, we've got other things at our dispense where we can, you know, look at can use beautiful herbs to do that and use some lovely bitters to help stimulate digestive function, to start getting their digestive enzymes functioning well and working and a good production there. Good amounts of hydrochloric acid or bile acids, all those things to really help their digestion. And we may introduce other things like glutamine, which I describe as the real lovely soothing glue for that inflamed gut. So yes, that's what I, you know, in the simplest way, like to do is take a little bit out, but certainly put a little bit in as well.
Absolutely. And you know, Ray, like you said, when you take out those beige carbs in the form of gluten, that, you know, there's not much nutrients in them that you can't find in other foods. Anyway, you then are forced to, you know, add other foods, and it's really hard to find foods that aren't more nutritious. And like you say, if you're switching out your cheese and crackers and you're getting your carrots and your avocados and all those lovely foods, your body is also going to not just, you know, be free of gluten, but just get this massive nutrient bomb of just deliciousness as well. And also just wanted to say about the gluten-free thing. I know that when I decided to go gluten-free, it was the most daunting thing in the whole world, but I've never never thought, oh my God, I really have to eat that slice of toast, because how you feel gluten-free is worth never touching gluten again. It depending on your level of sensitivity, of course. Like some
Of
people
course.
can still enjoy a little bit now and again,
Yes.
which is interesting. So tell us a little
Yeah.
bit about your eating. Now, you've already said it's a kind of a paleo way of eating. I'd love you to tell us a little bit more about that, and to give us, I love to have a plate perv at what other people are eating. So if you could give us a bit of a lowdown on what a typical Rae day looks like, that would be really cool too.
Okay, so what was the first question, Helen? Before the plate perv, I was distracted.
Yeah, it's like,
Plate perv.
what a funny hashtag to start using. I asked you what because right, I'm all for, like, everyone's got their own shade of paleo, right? I don't think
Yes.
you can't just say one diet suits everyone, because of bio-individuality, and we're all completely unique, which is exactly the same way of saying that. But so I was really I know when we were having a little chat before this interview, you were like, oh well, I'm not really fully paleo, and I don't want to confuse your listeners. And I said, actually, that is really refreshing and welcoming, because you're a picture of health. You definitely practice what you preach, and I'd love for you to share your version of paleo with the listeners.
Right. Okay. Sure. Well, I guess from having Hashimoto's when I was first diagnosed, that was where I really started to look a bit deeper at what my options were, and where there was some evidence in reducing my autoimmune antibodies or improving my Hashimoto's. So that's the first time I went gluten-free. And so there was Dr. John Lee was a lecturer that I heard at the time, who had showed a study that it was really a study that he'd conducted on some clients, patients of his, where he had looked specifically at their autoimmune antibodies and looked at different interventions he could use to reduce those autoimmune antibodies. And where he had the most significant impact in that was on a gluten-free diet. So that was a real eye-opener for me. And so I did my own personal study on that. I went and got my bloods done and checked my autoimmune antibodies. And then I went on a good, strict gluten-free diet for 6 weeks. And yes, my autoimmune antibodies did come down. I have experimented with a lot of things over that time to improve my thyroid function. And I've sort of really learnt the effect of stress on that, and certainly with diet. So I guess that was a really good way for me to know specifically exactly what gluten was doing to me from that autoimmune perspective. So then I really try, and most of the time when I'm in control of what I eat, I do eat gluten-free, and I don't find it difficult. Particularly I have options like the lovely Primal alternative fructose, and
quickly into an infomercial.
And look, and I'm so lucky where we live, because we have this most amazing pizza shop that also do stock the wonderful Primal alternative bases, as well as we've got another a great local, the Seraphine bread, it's a true sourdough, gluten-free, and they have their bases there as well. So we've got lots of options. So if I want to go and get one of their wonderful pizzas, it does, I don't have to eat gluten. But I think it's really important. I mean, I'm lucky I'm not celiac, so I don't have to be that strict and concerned all the time. And if I'm going to someone's house for a meal, I don't have to, don't worry about, going gluten-free or putting in any specific requests. So, and I just think that's really important, that you can just go out for a meal wherever you go, don't worry about it, where you can make the choice and you can choose gluten-free, great. But if it's not available, just to not stress about it, because I really do think if you're stressing about it and you're stressed about what you're eating and stressed about making sure it's gluten-free, I just don't think you're not going to absorb your nutrients well. You can't digest well when you're stressed. So if you are really stressed about the diet and keeping it, 100% perfect all the time, I don't think that's the best way to actually absorb the most from your food. And, I see plenty of people that do come in to see me and have what would be, you could see as this perfect diet, and they've got it all worked out and they're it might be mostly paleo, but totally gluten-free and dairy-free and all organic, but to the point where it's actually a real stress for them, and it's a real stress to make sure that their kids are totally eating that way and everyone around them. And they say, look, they don't go out because, they can't be guaranteed of what they're going to be given. And I can already tell. And then that they still have digestive symptoms and they still have health problems. And that's usually why they come in. They're frustrated as to why. And the stress is a really big factor there. And I think going a bit deeper, if they do have problems with those foods, I think it's right. Let's have a look. If it's not the food as such, if it is their digestive system, let's find out why it's causing a problem. Let's work how we can fix that. And also just relax a little bit and put good energy into what you eat and think about, what you're going to get rather than, think about the benefits of that meal. If you're trying to stay gluten-free and someone has made you this beautiful, lovingly produced vegetable lasagna, and you can totally freak out about the fact that it's got gluten in it, or you can think about all the beautiful vegetables that you're going to get from that, all of the love that's gone into it, and just relax and enjoy the meal. And I think that if you do relax and enjoy it, chances are it's not going to upset you that much. And
absolutely,
if it does, some enzymes or
you'll be right. And it's absolutely right. And what I find where a lot of my clients lose traction in their primal journey is that they're just focusing on food, and I think it comes down to like there's 4 things, like this is your health on the top here, and then you've got these like 4 props that are keeping it up, and your food might be really good, but like if you're like totally stressed out about eating the vegetable lasagna, then your health's still going to be a bit shaky. Whereas really it comes down to food, movement, lifestyle, and mindset. And there's a lot of people that have taken the primal paleo or any kind of way of eating to an extreme, and it's even got a name. It's called orthorexia, where it becomes a detriment to your health to be so strict. I mean, for example, like for me, because I've got extreme gluten sensitivities, I couldn't eat the gluten lasagna, but you could. But that would be all right, because if I did get there and it was I couldn't have that, well, I could just fast, because I'm not going to drop down dead because I'm not on that sugar roller coaster anymore. And I love the biggest message that you've got here is putting that positive energy into everything that you do, and not making it a complete stress. And there are so many benefits that we can't even calculate about getting together for a social gathering, receiving a beautiful meal that somebody in your tribe has cooked for you. Those sorts of health benefits, how do you measure those, but yet we know we're social beings, and our health is best when we work together, and not when we're just eating preparing every single bloody meal and staying at home all the time. Like, that's not a recipe for long-term success and happiness, is it really?
Yeah, and that's so true. And I don't want to discount for those people who really do need to be very careful when they do go out for a meal, and you can sort of choose those trusted places and good friends that really understand the impact that can have if someone does become glutened or does have something that they can't eat, and then they can have that safe place they can go, or they can say, hey, how about I contribute to the meal and I'll bring something as well. It's a way to sort of get around it. But I think that thinking more about that abundance, something I was going to mention as well before, when I do get clients to do a bit of a food diary. So, and they might initially come with a food diary of what they're eating, which may be a gluten-containing diet. And then what I often get them to do is, I've got a little container of pencils there. So it may be adult or children's, and I get them to actually work through me, and we colour in their meal. So it might be, so if they've had honey on toast, we can't really add much colour to that. We'll put a little bit of yellow or brown or whatever. And then there might be cheese and crackers, or there might be a pasta, or there might be, some potato, whatever. Anyway, we go through the diet and colour it in. And then what we do is, when they have gone gluten-free, we do the same activity again. And it's great because all of a sudden they've picked up a blue pencil, or they've picked up an orange pencil, or they've picked up more green, and to see the difference in that, rather than think about, this is the gluten-free, it's what's not in there. It's more about what is in there. And I think that that's a nice way for people to just think about colour is nutritious, and not about what they can't have, but about what they are putting into their diet, as a really way to just sort of focus on not what they can't have, but what they can have. And then going back to healing that leaky gut, it's all of those beautiful phytonutrients that play such a big role in actually healing the gut as well.
Yeah, that's awesome. Now, Rae, let's touch on my 3 favorite paleo primal grey area topics, which can really like divide the room. And I'd love to hear what your thoughts are on them. So I'll just hit you up with all 3 at once. Okay, so chocolate, alcohol, and coffee. Go.
All right. So, tick, tick, tick.
That's why
I think, that's a great question, because when I do, work through someone's diet, and we might take a few things out and put a few things in, they'll be the things that people are asking about. Yeah. So with chocolate, it might be as simple as actually, a lot of people say, I'll do anything, just don't take away my chocolate. Yeah. So if we can then look at, and they're sort of having half a block of, snack chocolate or whatever at night, if we can change it to dark and say, you can how about if I'll let you have the chocolate if we can change it to dark, and so we'll meet a bit in the middle. They say I'm not going to go 90%, but I could just have one of the darker and less sugar. Great, let's just start moving in that direction, and they're going to eat a whole lot less of it anyway. And then you can, like anything, you can find, if you look hard enough, you can always find the health benefits to whatever you want to add in. But there is an abundance of evidence in the science of the effects of cocoa on our blood sugars, of cocoa on on brain health and focus and concentration. Cocoa is being put into supplements now for those reasons. And I think, but we've got to remember, it is the cocoa, it is the chocolate. So then we've got to think about, well, when we're eating chocolate, what are we having with the cocoa? So, we just got to I think it's just reading the label. And if we can get minimal amounts of sugar and other rubbish in there, enjoy a little bit of chocolate, because, if it's so much stress to take it out, again, it's not sustainable. And if it means someone can eat really, really well if they have their little bit of chocolate, then that's great.
Absolutely. And like you say, humans, we overestimate what we can achieve. Like we just totally overestimate it, and we think we can get so much done so quickly as well. So if you say, I'm never having, like that day you have the hangover, you're like, I'll never drink again until you're feeling healthy again, then of course you'll build like it's. So if you can include these lovely things in your life, but at a better quality and a lesser amount, then like, why not? So like when you get in the 70% chocolate, it's only 30% sugar and dairy and whatever else, or if you can edge towards 90%, then it's 90% cocoa and only 10% the other stuff. I still can't find any reason not to have 90% dark chocolate every day.
Yeah, and look, and in the same way, I can absolutely justify why coffee's okay. And look, where coffee's not okay is, if someone says, do I have to take out coffee? It's really, well, how much are you drinking? Why are you drinking it? And how do you have it? So really, how much you're drinking. If you're enjoying 1 cup of coffee in the morning and you're enjoying it, but you have it as part of your life because it's a ritual that you have with your partner, or it's something you do to sit out, watch the sunrise. It's something you do to go and catch up with your friend or your mum or whatever, enjoy that cup. That's really important from a social perspective. How you have it, well, I guess there are so many ways you can have coffee now. And it's really not the coffee, it's everything else. It's all the different milks, and then it's the sugars and the flavours and everything else that goes into it. And the size of it as well. So sometimes people might think they have a problem with coffee, but if we strip it back a little bit and have a look at the milk, are they having cow's milk? Do we want to swap it to an alternative? Are they having soy milk, and that's no good for them, and it's a highly processed food? Are they having an almond milk or a coconut milk? That would seem like a good alternative, but if you actually have a look at the panel, it's again a highly processed food. So have a look at how we can make that coffee. If it's still something they want to really enjoy, let's make it something which sits well for them. Take out the sugar. And then I sort of, how much, obviously, if they're only having one, not a problem. If they're having 4, 5 or 6, then we'll pull it back a bit. And if it's not causing any problem for them, like if they're not having issues with anxiety or issues with their gut or issues with sleep, then there's no real reason for them to not include it in moderation as part of something they enjoy during their day. And the why,
Yay! What great news!
Yeah,
that's so awesome. And I see it quite a lot in my 21-day challenges. People who've been paleo for a long time, they decide that they're going to quit coffee and alcohol for the 21-day challenge, and I do and they expect me to go, oh, well done, and I really feel like going, why are you making it so bloody horrible for yourself? Like, if you're feeling good, everything's working, just keep doing what you're doing.
And totally, and that's something that often people will sit down in front of me in clinic and they say, I know you're going to tell me not to drink alcohol and not to have coffee. So why would I do that? Why would I do that? And so, one thing I do ask people with their coffee is, how would you go without it? And a lot of people say, oh, I'm fine without it. I just actually really enjoy it. So if it brings joy, have it. But a lot of people say, I need it to get through my day. And there's a bit of a hint. We actually need to look at, why they can't produce their own energy without relying on the caffeine. So, So coffee gets the tick too.
Coffee gets the tick. I remember when I went, when I first started on my paleo journey, I had to actually get to like the taste of coffee, because I think it was in Dallas, and I've forgotten her other name, the Hartmans, the ones that do the Whole 30. I remember reading in their book, is it like, do you like the coffee or do you actually like the sugar, dairy thing that you're drinking that's also got a shot of coffee in there somewhere? But my coffee of choice used to be skinny, of course, because I was low fat, skinny mochas, or it would be a skinny cappuccino with a sugar. So basically, and I used to drink the coffee, I used to have 2 a day, and I was basically drinking them because I was starving, right? But I didn't want to eat because, I was counting my calories and that kind of thing. But coffee was all right because dairy was good, which is terrible, and I now know that dairy absolutely constipates me and doesn't cause me any health benefits at all. So it's funny, isn't it, when you peel it all back? Like, I was having coffee for the wrong reasons, but now I have a bulletproof coffee with a little bit of cashew milk in and coconut oil every morning, and it's just divine, and it's beautiful organic coffee, and it tastes like coffee, not sugar, and it's heavenly, and that works really good for me. Just that one, I love it, and I couldn't give it up. So don't tell me to give it up, Rae.
You'll press delete.
No, you're not going on YouTube after all. Okay, what about alcohol? That old biggie.
Yeah, excellent. Okay, so alcohol, I probably ask people the same questions as to why they're having it. And again, if it's part of a social ritual, that's great. If they're needing it, and a lot of people do say, I have that glass of wine and I need that at the end of the day. I need that to chill out. Then that's another reason that we actually look at the why, rather than, and address that why, stress is an issue. And once we address stress, do they actually just give up the alcohol? So they weren't actually enjoying it, but they just felt they needed it. And, so moderation. Look, I think if we look at things like, with health and longevity and things like the blue zones, where they've looked at these areas of the world where people are not just living to an old age, but they've got these people that live to centenarians, but they're healthy and they're still involved in the community and great sort of mental health and physical health. And they've looked at what are some of the consistent things amongst these people. And one of them, look, alcohol was in there. They had alcohol as part of their diet, and it was a social thing. It was in moderation. I think it was actually specifically red wine. So we then looked at the like the phytonutrients, resveratrol. There are absolutely benefits, but for some people, they can't have any. They, a little bit of alcohol causes a lot of problems for them, and they know that. So I just think, again, people could sort of read the information that, the positive benefits of alcohol, and if they know instinctively it's not good for them, then to take it out. So again, in moderation, look at the why. I then say to people, if you could no alcohol for a week, how would you go? And if people think, look, that's fine, that's not a problem, or if people think they'll really struggle, I think then they'll look deeper at the the reason why they're consuming it.
Yeah, absolutely. So you run a very successful clinic, and you have been running one for many years now. The people that come into your clinic, if we could just take a fly on the wall look at what sort of symptoms people are presenting with most, what would you say that they were?
I think, for probably reasons of my own personal interest with SIBO and gut health and thyroid, I think people, that then do gravitate towards a practitioner, whether they know that's my area or whether they just do. So I do see a lot of thyroid issues, and I do see a lot of digestive issues. More and more SIBO issues as well. And I guess maybe part of that is, we look at things like irritable bowel, and we know now that SIBO is a big driver for that. And SIBO or SIBO has which is the small intestinal bacterial overgrowth, is something we know a lot more about, but it's only quite new that we're able to really get a good, accurate test for that. So, and I guess once we can test, and once we know more effective treatments, it just becomes something that we can work with more effectively. So I think digestive issues and thyroid, but I would have to say, even in a lovely, relaxed town, stress is a big one. So stress, and then if that flows on to sleep issues or anxiety or mood disorders. But very rare that I do see someone that stress doesn't play some sort of impact in their life.
Yeah, wow, it is. It's so prevalent, isn't it? So if people are listening to this podcast and they're like, wow, Rae is awesome. Well, she is. You were my naturopath when I started on my journey, and everything that you've talked about, you did with me, and it was extremely successful. There was a period of time there where I went on a bit of a liver detox with you, and I did have to quit the chocolate and the coffee and the wine. But it was only for a brief period of time, and it was a bit of a reboot for my sluggish system. And now I do enjoy those three wonderful things in my life. And the reason I like to work with Rae so much is that Rae's very practical in terms of giving you things that you actually can stick to, and it doesn't make it so absolutely horrendous and awful, and just adding in good things, not just focusing on taking out the bad things. So if you really are liking Rae's vibe and you want to work with her, Rae, tell us, how can we get in touch with you?
Okay, so probably first the easiest is my website. So that's raepowys.com.au, and there's an easy way to book on the website. So a lot of my appointments do get booked online, or there's a number there to call the clinic. And so I do consults with people, obviously in clinic, in Denmark, also in Albany, but through the nature of Skype, it doesn't matter where someone is, they're still sitting there in front of you. So I do appointments with a number of clients around Australia. And I always like to, it's probably a good opportunity to let people know that, as a naturopath, I really do believe that, any naturopath is not an alternative to, a good medical practitioner. It's probably my advice to people would be, I think a naturopath is a really important part of your health team, and people just need to get a good team together.
Yes.
Get a great GP who's really happy to work in with your naturopath. Get a naturopath who's really happy to communicate with your GP, and really form that team that works for you. And whether that's needing a counsellor or a chiropractor, kinesiologist, massage therapist, and those good practitioners should have a good network that they can help refer you to for your needs. Because if there is any practitioner that think they can do it all, I think that's where you sort of realise that you're probably with the wrong one. And I think that, so I love to work integratively with other practitioners, and and likewise, I like to make sure that I've got other health practitioners that are happy to communicate and working with me, because I can't do it all. And as a naturopath, we don't diagnose, but we can absolutely work with a diagnosis and a really good medical practitioner to bring the best health out in a person, and spend that extra time and just help put the pieces together with people's health.
Yeah,
isn't so straightforward.
Yeah, and just to help people feel like they're not going crazy, and like it's there's quite a lot of things that can sometimes fly under the radar in the conventional medical system that naturopaths can point out, and just knowing that you're not going crazy is like a massive thing in terms of your health. And I love that you're suggesting a health team, because I think that's so important. You do need to have a good GP that you're confident with. You do need to have a good naturopath that you can turn to when you need to, and massage therapists are very important in my health team, and a chiropractor, and whatever you need. And also a coach,
health coach.
The health coach. Yeah, and
absolutely.
And it's you can do what I've learned just recently actually is you can do so much on your own, like with good food and movement and spending time in nature, etc., etc. But it's okay to ask for help when you need it. Like you don't need to just struggle on, and it is great to have those numbers of those people that you can call on. Like I did the other week with you, Ray, and I was like, oh my God, I've just got this cold. I just can't shake it. I don't have time to come for an appointment, but can you just do me a tonic? And you did one up, and I had it the next day. And, the next day I was like instant. I just needed that extra support at that time. And that's okay. Everybody gets sick from time to time. It's not about getting sick. It's about, making sure you can get better again. And so, yeah, I love that aspect of the health team. So thank you, Ray, for being on the podcast today. I'm so grateful. Thanks for sharing all of your wisdom. And Kel surprised that we ended up on your favorite topic, gut health, because it wasn't necessarily, we didn't say, let's do a podcast all about leaky gut, but that's where we kind of ended up. And that's obviously what you needed to share today. So thank you.
Yes, and probably my other way that people can follow, which might just really point towards my balance side, is I do have an Instagram page, which is Naturopath Running on Gin, and I do have a few people that ask what that's all about. I do love my gin.
She does.
It was, yes, and I do a lot of running, and I enjoy running. My Instagram page used to be Naturopath on the Run, and a friend thought it was pretty funny to change that to Naturopath on the Gin, and then it got changed to Running on Gin. So yeah, I don't run exclusively on gin. I enjoy a nice gin.
You used to run on sugar, and now it's gin. That's a good
exactly. Yeah, new fuel.
I like that. That just really makes you, that you're real. Like you run and you're healthy and you enjoy a good quality gin. I think that's a really nice balance. I love that. So thank you, Ray.
That's what we get on, Helen.
Yeah, we do. Yeah, we're very similar in our approach. I like wine though, not gin, in case anybody's thinking of any bottles.
I can go there too. Yeah.
Awesome. All right. Well, before we wrap up today, I just wanted to say that if you did want to try a 21-day challenge with me, where you might want to try the Primal lifestyle, quit gluten, see how you feel, then please head to my website, which is at primalalternative.com. Head to health coaching and you'll find a link to the 21-day challenge there, and come and try it for yourself. But that's all from Ray and I today. So thank you once again for being on the show, and I'll catch you again soon.
My pleasure. Thanks, Helen.